I've spent the last 49 years looking at the same four corners of this ceiling. You'd think that after half a century, I'd be an expert on concrete. But the truth is, I'm only an expert on one thing: the high cost of waiting. If you look at me, you don't see a criminal. You see an old man whose skin looks like a map of places he'll never get to visit. I wasn't a man of the streets. I didn't grow up with a gun in my hand. I grew up with a briefcase and a hunger for more. I was an architect, not of buildings, but of my own destruction. I spent my youth building a ladder, thinking that once I reached the top, I'd finally start living. I told my wife, Martha, "Just a few more years, honey. Once the business is solid, once the bank account is full, then we'll take that trip. Then I'll play with the kids. Then I'll be the husband you deserve." I lived my entire life in a place called tomorrow. And tomorrow is the most dangerous prison of all, because the bars are made of your own promises. I remember my daughter's 7th birthday. I was at the office, chasing a contract that I thought would change our lives. Martha called me 3 times, but I didn't pick up. I was busy. I told myself I was doing it for them. I thought love was measured in the size of a house or the brand of a car. I didn't realize that to a 7-year-old, love is just 10 minutes of her father sitting on the floor playing dolls. I missed the birthday. I missed the cake. I missed the look in her eyes. I thought I could make it up to her later. But later is a ghost, Evlat. You can chase it your whole life and never touch it. My crime wasn't born out of hate. It was born out of a cold, calculated ambition. I cut corners. I signed papers I shouldn't have signed. I ignored safety warnings because they were too expensive and would delay our big future. Then a building collapsed. People died. People who were just like me. Husbands, wives, children. All because I was in a hurry to get to a life I hadn't even started living yet. When the judge hit that gavel, the tomorrow I had been building vanished. All that was left was the now. And the now was a cold, windowless cell. The hardest truth I've ever learned? You don't lose your life all at once. You lose it in minutes. You lose it every time you say, "Not today," to someone you love. You lose it every time you prioritize a paycheck over a memory. I've been in here for 49 years, and I've had plenty of time to count those lost minutes. They weigh more than the concrete walls. In the early years, I'd sit on my bunk and close my eyes, trying to remember the smell of Martha's hair or the sound of the screen door slamming on a summer evening. But those memories started to fade, replaced by the smell of floor wax and the sound of heavy boots in the hallway. That's the real punishment. It's not the loss of freedom. It's the slow, agonizing realization that the life you were preparing to live has happened without you. Or worse, it never happened at all, because you were too busy preparing. I remember a fight I had in the yard back in '82. A man half my age tried to take my coat. I fought him, not because I cared about the coat, but because I was still clinging to that old ego. I ended up with a broken rib and 3 weeks in the infirmary. As I lay there, breathing in the smell of bleach, I looked at the man in the bed next to me. He was dying, alone, with no one to call. He looked at me and whispered, "I just wanted one more Sunday." Not $1 million, not a promotion, just one more Sunday. I realized then that I had been a millionaire of Sundays, and I had spent them all like they were worthless coins. Now, my body is failing me. My eyes are cloudy, like I'm looking at the world through a thick fog. I see the younger guards talking about their weekend plans, their gripes about their wives, their boredom. I want to grab them by the shoulders and scream, "Don't you see? You're in the middle of the miracle. The boredom, the gripes, the laundry, the bills, that is the life." But they wouldn't understand. They're still building their ladders. They're still waiting for tomorrow. I have a letter in my pocket. It's 20 years old. It's from Martha. It was the last one she ever sent before she passed away. She didn't write about the money I lost or the shame I brought to the family. She wrote about a Tuesday afternoon, years before the prison, when we sat on the porch and watched a thunderstorm roll in. She said that was the happiest she'd ever been. Not the day I got the big promotion, not the day we bought the house, just a quiet Tuesday on a porch. I've read that letter so many times, the ink has almost disappeared. I spent 49 years in this cell because I didn't value a Tuesday afternoon. I thought I was too big for a Tuesday. I thought I was destined for something grander. Now, I'm 82. I've realized that there is nothing grander than a Tuesday afternoon with the people you love. Everything else is just a distraction. Everything else is just a wall you're building between yourself and the only thing that actually matters. I look at the clock on the wall. Tick, tick, tick. Each second is a gift that most people treat like a burden. I've lived a long life, but I've only lived a few hours of it. The rest was just waiting. Don't be like me. Don't wait for the perfect time to be happy. Don't wait for the right moment to be kind. Because the clock doesn't care about your plans. It just keeps moving. And one day, you'll find yourself at the end of the line, looking back at a life full of later and not yet. My cell is quiet tonight. The halls are still. I'm just an old man with a letter in his pocket and a heart full of Sundays he can never get back. Please, for the sake of your own soul, don't waste yours. The night air in the geriatric ward is different from the rest of the prison. It doesn't smell like sweat and adrenaline. It smells like medicine, stale oxygen, and the slow, quiet evaporation of spirits. At 82, my world has shrunk to the distance between my bed and the window, and most nights, even that feels like a marathon. I lie here and listen to the rhythmic wheezing of the man in the next bunk. He's 90, they say. He doesn't remember his name, but sometimes in his sleep, he calls out for someone named Grace. It makes me wonder if, in the end, we all just revert back to the names of the people we failed to love enough. I told you about my daughter's 7th birthday. That was the first stitch to pull in the fabric of my life. By the time I was 50, the whole garment had come apart. I remember the first time Maya came to see me here. She was 24. She stood on the other side of that glass, looking at me not with hatred, but with a kind of polite curiosity, as if I were a historical artifact she was required to study for a school project. She had my chin and Martha's eyes, but her voice was a stranger to me. She told me she was getting married. She didn't ask me for advice. She didn't ask for a blessing. She just told me, the way you'd tell a neighbor you barely know that you're moving away. I spent that night staring at the wall, realizing the hardest truth I've ever had to swallow. You can't ask for a place in a life you chose to leave. I had traded my seat at her wedding table for a seat at a boardroom table 40 years prior, and the universe was simply settling the ledger. People think that forgiveness is a grand gesture, a dramatic moment where the clouds part and the weight is lifted. It's not. Forgiveness is a long, lonely walk through the ruins of your own heart. I spent decades hating the prosecutors, hating the witnesses, and hating the laws that put me here. But about 10 years ago, I realized that my anger was just a wall I built to keep from looking at my own reflection. I had to forgive myself for not being a monster, but for being a fool. A monster is rare, but a fool who thinks money can buy back a missed Tuesday? We're a dime a dozen. I remember a young man who was assigned to my block a few years ago. He was brilliant, a math whiz who'd gotten caught up in something he couldn't handle. He reminded me of myself, always talking about what he was going to do when he got out. He had plans for businesses, for investments, for making it big to prove everyone wrong. I sat him down one day in the yard. I told him, "Son, look at these walls. They don't care about your plans. They only care about your time. If you spend your whole life planning for the day you leave, you're letting them steal the life you have right now." He didn't listen, of course. He thought I was just a bitter old man who'd lost his spark. He didn't realize that my spark was exactly what burned my house down. What is the hardest truth? I'll tell you. It's that we are all, every one of us, working on a masterpiece that we will never see finished. We spend our lives trying to reach a destination, a promotion, a retirement, a someday, only to find that the destination was just a mirage. The only real thing you ever possessed was the coffee you drank this morning, the way the light hit the trees on your way to work, and the hand you held before you fell asleep. Everything else is just a story we tell ourselves to stay busy. I have a small wooden box under my bed. It contains a few coins that are no longer in circulation, a lock of Martha's hair, and a drawing Maya sent me when she was 10, the last thing she ever sent. It's a picture of a bird flying over a fence. For a long time, I thought the bird was me, escaping. But now, at 82, I realize the bird is just a bird. It's not a symbol. It's just a living thing, existing in the moment, not worried about the fence or the sky or the tomorrow. It just is. My breath is getting shorter these days. The doctors don't say it, but I see it in the way they look at my chart and then look away. I'm not afraid. How can you be afraid of a door when you've been staring at the handle for 49 years? I'm just tired. I'm ready to stop being Silas the architect, or Silas the inmate, or Silas the warning. I'm ready to just be silence. I want you to do something for me. I want you to go to a window. Don't look at your phone. Don't look at your watch. Just look at the world for 60 seconds. Watch a leaf move. Watch a car pass. Listen to the hum of the world. That 60 seconds is yours. It's a gift that I would give 50 years of my life to have back. Don't spend it thinking about what you need to do next. Don't spend it worrying about a mistake you made yesterday. Just exist in it. The tragedy of the human condition isn't that we die. It's that we wait so long to start living that death feels like an interruption instead of a conclusion. I am 82 years old, and I finally started living about 5 minutes ago, right when I stopped caring about later. I can hear the guard coming down the hall for the final count. The boots on the floor, the jangle of the keys, the soundtrack of my life. Soon, the lights will go out, and I'll be back in the dark with my memories and Martha's letter. I'll read it one more time, feeling the ghost of her hand on the porch, watching that thunderstorm that happened half a century ago. I don't have a legacy. I don't have a fortune. I don't have a name that anyone will remember in a year. But I have this truth, and I'm handing it to you, like a fragile, glowing coal. Don't let it go out. Go home. Hug your wife. Play with your kids. Sit on your porch and watch the rain. Don't wait for the big moment. The big moment is happening right now, in the middle of the boring, the mundane, and the everyday. My time is up. My story is written on these walls, and soon they'll paint over it for the next man. But your pages are still blank. Write something beautiful on them. Write something that has nothing to do with ego and everything to do with love. I'm 82. I've learned the hardest truth. And the truth is, you already have everything you're looking for. You just have to stop waiting for tomorrow to see it. Don't repeat my mistakes. Don't waste yours.